To Down the Forest Path, a seasonal knitting podcast. My name is Nicola, I am the host of this podcast, and I'm really glad that you decided to join me today and spend some time with me to talk about knitting. A few weeks ago, I got struck with the worst cold that I have had in ages, like literally years. It was so bad. And then suddenly my smell went completely, so I was almost certain it was COVID, but I did test multiple times and it wasn't. Nevertheless, it was quite bad, and it was too bad to film something for quite a while, but it was really shortly before Easter, and I knew that some things would leave the household because they were gifts. So I did film a little bit. As you can see, I managed to get healthy again just in time for the yearly egg hunt at my family's and my parents. And I have a ton of chocolate eggs to show for it, courtesy of the Easter Bunny, who is, I think, good friends with my mom and dad. So now I have a task here to actually eat this amount of chocolate, which I think will not be very difficult, I have to admit. So anyway, I was quite sick for a while, but I did film all of my finished objects when I still had the cold, because there was just no other way to do it before giving away some things for Easter. So I hope you will forgive me that I do sound completely off. And without further ado, I will hand over to Cold Nicola of 2 weeks ago for the finished objects.
Hi. So as you can probably hear from that, I caught a quite bad cold. I've been sick for the last week and a half. It was quite miserable, sinuses, clogged, cough, everything. I tested for COVID 3-4 times. It wasn't that, it was just a really bad, the mother of all colds. I felt positively medieval, like a peasant in the Witcher computer game series or something like that, just running around coughing my lungs up. But it's gotten better now. I still sound like this, so I'm not filming a whole episode now, just finished objects. So I have a few things that I finished. Some of them I finished while on the sofa and just being hunkering down with the cold, and they're leaving the house because fingers crossed I'll be able to go up to my parents tomorrow to see them for Easter. And lots of these are Easter things, but there's also a present that I'm giving away. So I thought I would still sit down and talk to you. Not a whole episode or anything, but just to go through the finished objects with you. I don't want you to have to listen to this voice for 45 minutes straight. Actually, I'm sure it doesn't sound that bad on the video. It just sounds that bad to me because I know what my voice normally sounds like. But still, we're gonna keep this part short, just go through what I've been up to. And I hope you enjoy the things that I have finished, because I am really happy with them. So first of all, we have the Good Bunny. So this pattern is called Good Bunny. It's a pattern by Susan B. Anderson for this little stuffed rabbit. But it also comes with patterns for the entire wardrobe for the bunny. And as you can see, it has this cute little bonnet with a little pom-pom on top, and it has a little shawl that it comes with, and a dress, an underskirt, and it has some pants. So it's really cute to knit the bunny and then knit the corresponding clothes for it as well. I'm going to take off the bonnet so you can see the head a little bit better. There we go. So you can see this really adorable bunny rabbit, and he's looking up, so he looks really chipper and proud, and I'm going to give him to, or her, I'm not actually sure, to my parents for Easter, so they can use, I'm just gonna say him, so you can use him as a little like decoration and just stand him on the table. He won't stand by himself, but if you lean him against like a vase or something, then he's quite happy to stay there. And I'm going to bring him up to the camera. So let's take off the shawl so you can see better. So it's really cute. The way he's looking up made me fall in love with the pattern. This is the first stuffed animal that I've knit, actually. So that was completely new to me, and the pattern was miraculously clear. It was really nice. It was a really nice start into knitting stuffed animals, because it was just so in depth and so detailed about how you had to go about it. I really didn't struggle at all. And Susan B. Anderson is, I think, most known for her toy designs. And you can see that she's a very seasoned pattern designer, and everything in this pattern makes sense. So it was really easy for me to follow, even though I hadn't done it before. The way that she structures the pattern, you can also print it out, and then you have a like cute little booklet, because you can actually print it, fold it in the middle, and then it's like a little book. And then the little book has the pattern for the bunny and all of the clothes for the bunny as well. And she has also made another pattern that's called Good Bear. And the Good Bear is similarly cute. I just thought the Good Bunny was like a tiny bit more cute even, but don't tell that to the bear. And they're the same size, so the wardrobe for them is exchangeable. And the Good Bear comes with a super cute little cardigan. So that's also adorable if you're looking for something to knit. And the pattern instructions for the clothes were also quite clear. The only thing I struggled with is that sometimes I don't pay enough attention to the instructions. And there were a few times in there where it says row 1, 2, 4 knit. And apart from that, like every row is like in its own line, but then it says like row 2 to 7 do this. And sometimes I kind of skipped over that a little bit. So for example, my Good Rabbit doesn't have like quite, the pants don't have enough ribbing up here. So it's a bit low rise. It's a bit early 2000s, but I think we just got away with it. And on top of that, he has the underskirt and the dress over that anyway, so that's completely fine. And I used Drops alpaca for this in different colors, because I still had quite a few like open balls of Drops alpaca that I started a project with, but I didn't use it up. And that was really great to use up any like leftovers, because I think the bunny took about like 15-20 gram of yarn. The pattern is made for sport weight yarn, and Drops alpaca is a sport weight yarn. I did use smaller needles because Drops alpaca is kind of like, if you've knit with it, you know that it's the actual thread is kind of thin, and then it has this halo-y alpaca around it. So I thought to create a fabric that's kind of dense enough, I would need to go down a needle size or two, and I did, and it worked. I think it came out super cute. Ta-da! And as I said, like the instructions are so clear, down to how to embroider the face on the Good Bunny, like everything as clear as you could hope for. And all of the little wardrobe pieces are just adorable. I really like how this pattern came out, and I think I might knit it again, but to be honest, I kind of realized, here we are back with the bonnet on, because otherwise it would just be sad. I kind of realized that I've mostly knit with the magic loop method whenever I knit in the round on a small circumference, and I just much prefer it. But this pattern is really made to be knit on mostly 3 needles, and she is super clear about how many stitches should be on each needle, and it's really helpful for you to see if you're off somewhere if you do it that way. So I did it that way and I didn't knit it on magic loop. It really helped, but it took some getting used to, because I tend to just, I know it's kind of common for anyone who does like not do the knitting on the like double pointed needles that often, but I tend to like gleefully pull out the wrong needle and then stare at it and go like, again, thank you so much, I love it, perfect, like why can I not just look at it and think before I do? It's yeah, so that's that, but we did see it through, it went up fine, and now we have this adorable little bunny. I made one change in it. So the little shawl, I knitted with Susan's pattern at first and it came out a little bit too big. So I ripped it back, and instead of that I made a tiny version of the, there's a free triangular handkerchief / shawl pattern on Rivera. I think it's called Brass and Steel or something like that. I'm going to link it below anyway. So I made a tiny version of that and I did a picot bind off, and I'm much more happy with the size of this, because before it was covering up quite a lot of detail on the dress and on the underskirt, and now I can see all of it very nicely. I wish this would lie a little bit flatter here. So, but I think that's fine. And it was just adorable to actually block these tiny clothes, because I submerged them in water and pressed them with a little towel and then blocked them on a blocking mat, and it was so cute to see this tiny stuff just drying away blocking. So yeah, I can fully recommend the pattern. Knitting with drops alpaca, I always really like. I don't like how much it sheds, but I think there's really no way around it, so I'm not going to hold it against it. And I always like to kind of put a cost point on my project, so I had all of these left over, so the cost point for me is actually 0. But if you were to make it from scratch, then you would need at least 1 ball for the bunny and 1 ball for the clothes. So you would need at least €6 for the 2 like balls of drops alpaca, but ideally like 9 or 12, because I think it's much cuter if you use different colors for the clothes while you go about it. But yeah, it's definitely not a super expensive project to make, and it's a super cute giveaway for people who like to use stuff like that in their decorations, or people who have kids. Just make sure that then you use a safe way to put the eyes on, because even if you use safety eyes, kids will often be able to get it out, and you really don't want there to be an accident with the safety eyes, because they're a bit of a choking hazard. So since my parents often have people visiting who have children, I embroidered the eyes so there can really be no accidents with that. And then I have another finished object. I don't think I'll be able to get all of it on screen. Here. So I'll hold it very close to the camera so you actually get a better impression of the colors. So this is a woven scarf I've made out of Meadowyarns yarn. I think the yarn quality is called Picacho. I don't know how you pronounce it really. It's their 100% wool fingering weight yarn, and it's woven on an Ashford rigid Heddle loom. Here I go. Yeah, I really like how this came out. I was completely not convinced while I was making it, I have to say, because I did a little bit of an experiment with it. So I used a reed. A reed is the thing that you have on the loom that you put up or down, and depending on how you put it, it opens a shaft that then you can pass your weft yarn through. Weft yarn is the one that you have wound on the little like stick and then pass it left to right. And I used a reed that was too far spaced out between the slots for the yarn weight I was using in order to make a very lightweight spring shawl out of it. And it worked quite well, and I really like what it looks like now. But weaving it was not the greatest experience, I have to say. So if you want to talk about it in knitting terms, it's basically using a yarn with needles that are way too big for it. So if you've ever knit a ranunculus with lace weight yarn, or if you've ever used like 5-6 millimeter needles with fingering weight yarn, you kind of know what that feels like, and that it can sometimes be a little bit more effort to actually control the tension. And that's not really different in weaving. So while I was weaving it, I was getting a little bit frustrated with how much effort I had to put in not pushing down the weft yarn too much, so that you would still be able to see the warp. So the warp are the threads that run like up and down in what you're weaving, and the warp yarn here, I've used one that has these like orange kind of turquoisey streaks in it, and I really wanted it to come out in the finished product, and it did in the end, but it was a lot of effort to not kind of cover it all up with the turquoise. In the end, I wove a little bit more tightly to kind of finish it off in a nice way, so that it's more stable. And you can see here, you can't see the orange poking through, so you can see it here and then it vanishes. And if I had just like woven how I usually do, then that would have been the case all through the shawl, and you wouldn't have actually had these nice color accents at all. So it was quite a bit of effort to do this. And to be honest, it made me so frustrated at times that I was tempted to just grab my scissors and cut it all loose, because I was like, I'm not really enjoying it that much. It's difficult. I don't know if I'll be able to finish it in time, because I just don't want to spend so much time with it. But I am someone who kind of pushes through with projects, sometimes to a fault, because I don't like giving up on stuff. And in this case, it was good because I love how it came out, and I think the person who it is for will also really like it and wear it quite a lot, and it will keep them warm in those like kind of chilly spring nights that you get in Germany, and even sometimes in summer. And I finished it with these like nice twisted little fringe things. So I think that's also quite cute, and it's long enough to also wear it by doubling it up and then going like this. So I am proud of myself for sticking with it, because I think now it's a really versatile, very cozy scarf, and I think the person who's getting it is also going to be happy with it. And then I have something else to show you. So remember that I said that the Good Bunny was my first stuffed animal that I knit. It's technically not 100% true, because there was one little exercise that I wanted to do before starting on the Good Bunny. I wanted to just quickly try out how it would all work with the needles, and how I would be knitting it up on such a small like circumference and things like that. And I found a pattern on Rivera that basically did exactly that on a very, very, very tiny project, and it also looks very cute. So I thought like, okay, that's what we're going for. This pattern is called Tiny Chickens, and here is a finished tiny chicken. Come on, focus, you can do it. I believe in you. There we go. So here's a finished tiny chicken. The pattern is free on Rivera. I'm going to link it down below, so have a look if you also want to have a tiny chicken. I'm quite proud at how angry it is looking. My little sister said it kind of like embodies the spirit of tiny angry birds, and she asked me to also make her one. And since I'm going to see my family for Easter and I was sick, that kind of escalated a little bit. So now I have an army of tiny chickens and I'm going to give them away tomorrow and we're going to see how everyone likes it. So we have this kind of like very traditional chicken here. It's knit out of the Alyssa yarn, so it has nice little speckles and it's also looking quite grumpy. Some of them are looking extremely grumpy. I love that for them, it's good. So this will definitely find a nice new home. And then we have this kind of posh, angry little chicken because it's knit out of 50% merino, 50% silk yarn, so it's feeling quite good about itself. Then we have this blues chicken. So that's a bit more of an unconventional color, but if you've ever played Stardew Valley, you know that they exist. So let's see how that goes over. Then we have this tiny chicken where I ran out of the gray yarn on the wings, so it has different colored tiny wings. I hope no one will notice that. If you're now watching the video and this is now your chicken, then well, I don't think anyone will mind. It's quite proud of its different colored wings, and I think it looks cute. And then we have this grumpy little chunky chicken that's also feeling quite proud of itself, with the wings pointing up and flapping away. So I have all of these. Ta-da! And they all need names. So I would ask you for suggestions, but by the point I will put an episode out, they will all be in their new homes. So I can't very well do that. But I think I will just go with like a chicken themed naming scheme. So I think I'll just see what they look like because they have to have names that fit them. But I think one of them is going to definitely be a Hennifer, and then probably a Henriette, which is a nice name that's quite common in Germany, but it's mostly for people who are a bit older. It's not a name that is commonly used for young people, but I think it might be like up and coming again because it's quite a nice name, Henriette. And then I'm just going to have to think of a few more chicken themed names, which I find quite fun. So I think about it, and I think what I'm actually going to do, it's a bit gimmicky, but I think it's cute, is I'm going to put each of these chickens in a tiny box and just write the name on it, and then everyone can just pick one based on the name, and we're going to see who ends up with which one of these. So yeah, that's another finished object, and pattern is free and below. And then I have one more finished object, which I'm also quite happy with. This is the Picacho peak hat. There we go. It's finally done. I let this fall to the wayside for so long, and it came out quite slouchy, which I knew it would, and I'm quite happy with it because I don't usually wear slouchy hats, but I think it's super cute on me. I really like it, and I'm keeping this one. This is knit out of the first and only ball of pure cashmere yarn that I have. So the story of this is that I like reward myself with yarn if I do something that either I am scared of or that requires a lot of effort, is really hard to do. If I manage to do something that was really tough, or if I fail but I gave it my very best, then I will give myself a little bit of yarn to reward myself. And I don't know what this was the reward for anymore, but I did something tough, and I got myself one skein of pure cashmere yarn, which was also on sale from DyeForYarn, and this is it. I used up about half of it, bit more than half of it. I think I had 50 grams and now I have 22 left or something like that, so it's like 30 grams of this for the Picacho Hat, and this is the softest thing I have ever owned. It's super light. I'm really happy with it. It's going to be nice for spring because it's not totally too warm to wear. It's going to be, as we say in German, an Übergangsmütze, so a transitionary period hat which you can wear when like winter is turning into spring or autumn is turning into winter, and that whole period you can put this on. You'll not be too hot, you'll not be too cold. This is just going to be nice, and it just feels like getting a hug from the Kashmir fairy, I suppose. I'm super happy with it. I was worried it would be too big while I was knitting it out because it's quite substantially stretchy, but I think it's just right. And also, if I go out and it's a rainy day, I can actually fit all of my hair in here as well and just put it like this, which I like to do to keep everything nice and dry. So that's also going to be, or having, like, as I see right now, a like fake short haircut. It's quite practical for that as well. So I'm going to wear this a lot when I go out, and yeah, I can really recommend it. And as I said in the video when I first started this, Picacho Peak is also a free pattern on Rivera, and I'm also going to link it below. So if you're looking for a nice hat for like not too cold weather, not too hot weather, then this is actually really great for that. It's also would make a really nice present, I think, because the pattern is kind of like elegant. I think most people will like it. Here you can see it a little bit, and it's also really easy to knit. Oh no. Hello hair, please go back down. But yeah, it's quite simple to knit. It was actually the first pattern where I knit lace just based on the chart without using written instructions. And because it's so geometric and so stacked, so it has these columns of lace essentially, it is quite easy to do even if you haven't knit just based on charts below. So if you're looking for a nice like lightweight entry into knitting from a chart, then this is going to be perfect for you as well. Ta-da! Alright, I think that was very productive. And I have all of these little like tiny finished objects and the one bigger object. So yeah, I did quite a lot despite being sick, or because of being sick, because I don't do well with just being trapped on the sofa and not doing anything. So I did these little things where I could easily put them down and rest. So I have all of this finished, and I hope I see you for the rest of the episode when my voice has actually calmed down a little and I sound like myself again. So over to non-cold Nicola. So those were the finished objects, and I have to say they all were received very well. The good bunny is in prime position on my parents' dining table now, where he's kind of like surveying the whole living room, and all of the little angry chickens went to their respective owners, and I think they all found really cute places in their respective households. That's that, and I also have a few works in progress to show you. The first work in progress is the Ella Solo pullover, and I have already knit the sweater once, but I am doing it a second time because I just really love the way that the yoke looks, because it has these like leaves around it. If you're interested in the pattern, this is a paid pattern. I will link it in the description below. And I'm not sure how I can actually show you the yoke a bit better, but I think the leaves are quite visible. So I'm all done with the lace, and I have separated for the sleeves and the body, and now I'm just basically knitting straight down, although I think I will actually improvise a little bit of waist shaping because my other Ella pullover is a tiny bit oversized for me in some areas, so I think I will actually include that this time.
But so far I'm really, really, really happy with it. This is my first real spring pullover of this year because it's knit in Drops Muskat, which is 100% mercerized cotton yarn. And I'm super curious about how this yarn will hold up once I wash it. I think I will actually, once I finish the pullover, do a little swatch and put it in the washing machine and see how it comes out. Because usually cotton is really like resilient and you can not mess it up so easily. So I hope this will be completely fine. And I love this color. I think it's super nice. I think it's going to look quite pretty when it's done. I'm now in the stocking stitch part, so the motivation is kind of waning, but it's a really good mindless knit for me now while watching TV, because literally I can do it without even looking at what I'm doing here. I can really recommend the pattern. I think it's quite clear. I just adore the leaves. I know I've already said it, but I can't really say it enough, and especially in like natural colors, I think it's so pretty. And I'm sure this is not the last one that I'm going to knit of these, because I also just like knitting the yoke. It's a quite easy to understand lace pattern. It's kind of easy to get in the groove, and the repeat is not super long, so the amount of stitches that you do before the pattern repeats is not too big to actually remember. So you just look at the pattern, then you knit straight through a row, and then you do it all over again. You don't constantly have to like stare at it the whole time, which is, it's good, because then really like I'm most knit while watching TV or YouTube videos, and this is just something that is the right level of concentration for that for me. I am going to put some long sleeves on it. This is not in the pattern, but I just like my arms being covered. It makes me feel more kind of cozy and protected. So I'm going to improvise some sleeves here and see how that goes. I know one of the patterns that she did with the same like motif around the yoke actually has sleeves, but that's not the one that I bought when I originally bought it, and I'm a bit too scroogey to spend the money on it twice effectively. So yeah, I will keep you in the loop how that's going, and I hope it's going to be finished the next time we see each other, but who knows, who knows. I always think like, oh, it's just a little bit left, it's not going to take so long, and then yeah, I kind of overestimate how quickly I can get this finished. The second work in progress that I have is a smaller work in progress. It's a little bit tangled up here as well. Let's see. And these are the Raven Queen mittens by the Rivera store Lattice and Llamas. So these are fingerless gloves, and I'm basically halfway done with the first one, and it's going to have this really nice raven motif on it. So you can already see a bit this like kind of gothic motif at the bottom, and then it goes into a branch, and the branch will have a little raven sitting on it, which it doesn't yet, but it will. So I think next time hopefully I can keep going with this, because the motivation is kind of failing me at the moment. It's now just suddenly so warm that oops, beginning of round marker gone, dropped. So I'm kind of getting to the stage right now where it's so warm outside, because spring is like really starting properly, that the thought of wearing fingerless gloves is just not as appealing. So I think I will try to find the motivation to push through with it, but I'm kind of also aware that it's probably not going to be worn before like October. So let's see. I will not blame myself if these are like on hold until the early autumn to finish. And then I have a third work in progress, but I actually can't show you because it's a surprise, and I'm going to make sure I get some really good shots of it before I give it away, because it's going to be quite cool. I think it's already looking really nice. I just hope I can finish it for the date that it's supposed to be a present for. And then I do have acquisitions, because my in-laws came over from the UK, so I did order a few UK yarns because they can then easily bring them and I don't have to worry about them getting lost in transit. So that's what I did, but it's not the only thing that I did. So yeah, don't judge me. So the first acquisition is quite loud and crinkly. I'm going to try to kind of keep it a little bit quiet. So this is from Meadowyarn and it's their A Skein Full of Sky July to December mini set. It's all of these little mini skeins that are quite variegated and they all look different from each other. I actually think they look much nicer individually than in this packet. So maybe let me get one out for you. So I've gotten like 3 out as an example. So this is one, and this is more of a like grey, orangey, red sunset look. Then there's this one, which is like one of these really like cold spring day sunsets where the sun just like softly goes down. Or there's this one, which is really vibrant, and I really like this one as well. So I am really happy with this purchase. I'm going to weave with this. I think it's too variegated for most of my colorwork projects. I might actually use it as a sky color in the background with a really solid second color in colorwork. I don't know about this yet, but mostly I got them for weaving. Because you always get to the point where you're like, oh, I'm going to buy a loom so I can use up my scraps into making them into like nice shawls, nice scarves, and then you reach a point where like I am now buying special little skeins to weave with, and then you know you've kind of like lost the fight against the yarn. So I'm quite excited to weave something nice out of this. I think they're a little bit less saturated than the other yarns I've gotten from Meadowyarns so far, so the dye is a little bit less vibrant. I think I would have liked it even more if they were like as colorful as the last ones I got from them, but still this is just a super nice set and I'm quite happy with it. And then you might know that Knitting for Olive recently had a day where they donated all of their sales, and I was thinking about getting 2 balls of their pure silk for a project because the color that I originally picked for it just didn't look as great in combination with another color. So I was kind of waiting for that anyway, and then they announced that and the day came around and I did buy quite a few balls of yarn. So I have this pure silk in the color powder and I have 2 of these. And then what I also did get was a few balls of their cotton merino for color work for like spring and autumn, because it's warm but it's not super hot. It also has this really nice shine to it. I think you can see it a bit in the camera. It looks like you can. So I think this is going to be lovely. And I did get 1 ball of absolute luxury for maybe a Christmas present held double with something else. This is their compatible cashmere. This is 100% cashmere in the color soft blue. And I will just basically go with anything, I think, and it will feel wonderful. And then I made 2 purchases coming out of my yarn fund. So I think I've mentioned this before a few times, but if I do something that I find really stressful, and the last few weeks were quite stressful in some ways, then I will put a little bit of money in like a yarn fund to buy myself rewards from without feeling like bad about it. That's also where the Meadowyarns thing came from. And also I try to motivate myself to work out more by like kind of rewarding myself with a little bit of money for that fund whenever I do a really tough workout. I don't really do it for hiking because I love hiking and you never have to convince me to do it, but for the exercise bike and all of the other like standard workouts, I tend to find them a little bit boring, so that little bit of extra motivation really helps. And so these two skeins are part of that like little reward money. And I first got this skein, it's by DyeForYarn, is their merino silk yak yarn in the colorway Sandy Carrot. This is a fingering weight yarn. It's going to make a lovely shawl because this is 120 grams, it's 480 meters, which means it's enough for quite a lot of shawl patterns, and it's enough for an out of darkness shawl, which I might actually do with this because I already have one in this yarn quality, and it's my favorite just from the shape, the feeling of it, the drape, the way that the yarn just like warms me without feeling super hot. It is like one of my favorite patterns, and this is one of my favorite yarns. So I think this won't have to wait very long in the display shelf to be used up, because the color is also just, it does look like a Sandy Carrot, so it does what it says it does. And I got a second skein in the same yarn quality from them. This is their St. Patrick's Day special in the colorway Enchanted Forest, and this was a surprise color, so I did not know what it would look like, and it looks beautiful. It's this slightly variegated green color. There's a few like lighter bits in there and a few darker ones, and I think this is just going to make the most gorgeous forest green shawl that I could hope for, and I hope I get around to knitting this up very soon as well. There you go. It's just so soft as well. So yeah, this is one of my absolutely favorite yarns, and I think the company offers like free shipping worldwide, which is really good as well. So even if you're international, it makes sense to just check it out and have a look at it. Here you can see their label, and they're on Etsy. So yeah, that's something that I'm also really happy with. So I think this episode was a little bit shorter than usual, mostly due to the cold that I caught and me not being able to talk about that one object that I'm currently also knitting on. I hope you enjoyed it, and I think I will see you quite soon. So take care, and until next time, bye!